Okay, hello guys, welcome back to my channel. Carl here, Stage K, and welcome back to the fifth or sixth video on the X32 compact. We're back today, and in the last video we had a look at the EQ section, where we took this microphone right here and we EQ'd it to make it sound like this. Here is the EQ we used last time. Now I'm going to keep being on this microphone because we're going to keep adjusting things on this microphone, because today we are going to be looking at the compressor section. So when somebody is talking into a microphone, and definitely when they're singing into the microphone, there's never going to be a constant lovely volume. Sometimes they're going to be very, very low, or sometimes they're going to be talking very, very loud. And as you see, clipping the input. So that is where a compressor comes in. So I'm going to just put a 7:1 ratio, just an easy, simple compressor here for you guys. And then I'm going to start turning this down. And then what you're going to notice eventually is that whenever I get louder, it's going to start clamping down on my audio. Check, 1, 2, 2. Check, 1, 2, 2, 2. Check, 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 1, 2. Hey! Check, 1, 2, 2. Now you can also notice a thing with the compressor, and that is when I enable the compressor, you will notice that our output volume gets louder. Oh, well, I know why. Because my makeup gain was cranked up. Hey! So you can notice now when I'm talking to this microphone, you can see that my gain is getting reduced, so it's not peaking. Now with this, in a kind of controlled environment, you could add a little bit of gain, makeup gain, if you wanted to. But basically what's going to happen here is that when I talk lower, then it's not really going to do much. But if I begin to start very, very loud and talking very, very loud, you're going to see that it's going to start compressing my audio to prevent me from peaking the output. So let's move on to actually speaking about the different things on the screen in relation to the compressor. Your threshold is at which point the compressor will start to attenuate the volume. Ratio is going to be your aggressiveness of your compressor. So if you put the ratio 100, that's pretty much a limiter. Ratio 7 is going to be, is usually where I like to lay for vocals. You could do less aggressive if you wanted to, if you want a kind of more lenient compressor application, which could be ideal in something like a talking scenario where it's not very variable voices. But for any kind of musician stuff, I tend to leave it at 7. And personally, for my voice, I tend to leave it at 7 no matter what. Attack is how fast your compressor actually starts clamping down on your voice. So if I turn my attack up, it's going to take very, very long before it actually starts attenuating on my voice. But it's the faster it is, desto faster it's going to take and attenuate on my voice. So attack 0, that's way too fast. So usually where I like to lay on vocals is between like 15 to 20. That's usually where I tend to lay when I do vocals. Hold time is going to be how long it holds that compression before it goes to the release phase. So the longer the time is, the longer it's going to hold the compression. And the shorter the hold time is, it's pretty much going to drop the compression immediately. So I tend to keep my hold at about, at about like 20, 25-ish. 25 to 30 on the hold time for my vocal mics. Sometimes shorter, sometimes longer, depends. You can also change between that being linear or logarithmic. Now, I'm not that much of an audio, terminology genius. So I'm not going to go too much into details on that, but I could pop up an explanation on screen right now. What's the difference between linear and logarithmic? Logarithmic is usually the normal way we compress things because it sounds the most natural. Linear compress things in a straight line. It sounds more precise, but very digital when heavy compression is being applied. That's the difference between linear and logarithmic. Next up is our release time. This is going to be how fast the compressor lets go after the hold time is over. So the longer my release time is, the longer it's going to hold the compression before it lets go. The shorter my release time is, the faster it's going to take and let go of my compression. So this you can see is too fast. So I tend to lay around that, 100 milliseconds to 80 to 100 milliseconds. Tends to be fine. Now you can also do a auto release time if you want to. If you want to, you can turn on auto mode, which is going to automatically set your attack, your hold, and your release. I recommend setting these values manually. It is not doing a bad job, but personally I'd recommend doing this manually unless you're doing something really simple where it's easier to just do something like this on the fly. So I would recommend keeping this in auto. Then you have your makeup gain, which pretty self-explanatory, adds back some gain after that gain has been reduced by the compressor itself. But then you can see we have a 1 and a 2. So whenever there's multiple pages, you'll see a 1 and a 2 or up in your corner. So if you go to the next one, then we have a few more. We have mix, which adjusts how much your signal is actually getting compressed. So the lower you turn this, the less it gets compressed. So right now, it's basically not compressing at all. Now it's compressing 50% of the audio, and it's sending 50% of the raw audio before the compressor too. So normally, we would just leave this at 100. Then you have knee. Basically, what your knee does is that you can set a curve, so it's more linear. So it kind of more gently applies the compression rather than just going right into the compression really quickly. I tend to just leave this at 1 for pretty much anything I do. I may do 0 sometimes if I'm doing something on a kick or something where I need the compression to be really, really quick. But in most circumstances, I tend to just leave this at 1. Then we have key filter and slope Q for the key filter. This is not really that useful on vocals, but one place where this is very useful is on something like a kick or a snare. Basically, what the key filter lets you do is that the key filter lets you focus on one specific frequency. And when that frequency peaks, it's going to listen for that frequency. And first, when that frequency peaks above the threshold, is when the compressor is going to start compressing. This is very handy on, say, a gate, for example, where you want to have it listen for a specific frequency. So say on a kick drum, for example, the sub kick, you set that to 60 hertz. So only when the kick is actually kicked and you have that strong 60 hertz pop come through is when the gate will actually open. I'll talk more about that in the next video when we're going to have a look at the gate. So that's what the key filter is very handy for. The key solos the key filter. Really. Now key source. Here is where things becomes a little not complicated, but here comes a nice thing which is very nice to do. So say for example you have a channel of music coming in, and then you have a channel of a microphone coming in. What you could do is that you could use the key source to select the music track, and then you take your key source and set your key source to be your microphone. Basically, what that then is going to do is that when you talk into the microphone, the compressor on your music channel is going to be pulling its threshold and its audio information from your microphone channel. So what you will end up with then is basically a ducker, where when you speak into your microphone then the music lowers. I have actually a way I can show this to you guys. So here is my aux 5, which, well, doesn't have a... Can I pull that up here? Can I pull you from like aux 5? Thank you. So this is now my aux 5. I'm going to plug something in here. Back, had to go get my adapter. Okay, so I am back. So basically what we are going to do is that we are going to go onto our aux, onto this channel which we have our aux. We are going to take and put this to get its key source from channel number 3, which is where we now have our music. Channel 3, excuse me. Channel 4 is where you're going to be pulling that from. So, now that we have that selected on channel 4, no, you are going to be selected on channel 2 actually, never mind. So we're going to select on our aux and we are going to select our channel 2 to be our music. So I'm going to start playing music. This is going to be Nagasaki by Waifu Baby. I'm just going to make sure that my EQ and stuff is flat in here first. So here you have the music in the background. You can hear that. Then what we are going to do is that we're going to go on the compressor. And then we're going to turn this down. And turn it on. So you hear that? So now we have music in the background. When I now talk into this microphone, it's gonna take and compress that audio coming from the microphone, coming from here. So you can now hear that now when I'm talking into this microphone, it dampens the music for me. So it's acting like a ducker. So whenever I'm now talking into this microphone, it's gonna be dampening the music in the background. And then I turn up the release time to something quite high. So that way it slowly releases, so that way if I'm talking continuously, it doesn't keep trying to take and release the music very fast, but it keeps holding the music while I'm talking. And then when I finally stop talking fully, then it takes and pulls it back up. So that's one very handy feature. So that's an example of how you can use a key source to lower your BGM, your background music, or whatever music you're playing with somebody is talking. This is very handy for, say, broadcast, for shows and stuff, where you tend to have background music on anyways, but you still wanna dampen that automatically when somebody starts talking, instead of you having to sit here manually and attenuate it. So that was my video on the compressor section. How to use it on a microphone and how to use it as a ducker for dampening your music and stuff like that. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this video and hope you find it useful. If you did, love would be greatly appreciated. And as always, check the links down below for my socials and all my other channels. Other than that, stay tuned and stay awesome and stage K the heck out of here.